I tried to turn that job down.
Are you serious?
Multiple times.
That's so funny.
And I was like, I know they talk so much politics on the show, and I'm not comfortable with that, so no.
I'd stop calling it a lie. Okay. Well, here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this, and he did it.
You ever notice how some shows claim to be about different viewpoints, but really, they just repeat the same opinion over and over? Yeah, I'm talking about The View. And if you think I'm exaggerating, hang on, because today we're going to unpack the shocking details. Candace Cameron Bure revealed about her time on that show. What she described makes it sound less like daytime TV and more like a political battlefield. Here's the background. Candace Cameron Bure, who you probably know from Full House, spent 2 years as the so-called token conservative on The View. Token conservative basically meant designated punching bag. She didn't even want the job at first. She turned it down multiple times, saying she wasn't comfortable with all the politics. But the producers kept pushing. They promised it would be light, fun, and mostly celebrity gossip. They even offered to fly her every week from LA to New York just to make it work. On paper, it sounded great. Free flights, a big platform, daily exposure. But here's the catch. They weren't telling her the truth.
Tried to turn that job down.
Are you serious?
Multiple times.
That's so funny.
And I was like, I know they talk so much politics on the show, and I'm not comfortable with that, so no. And then they came back and they were like, we're actually switching it. It's going to be more pop culture, more evergreen topics. We're not really going to talk about politics that much. And it was like, okay. And then I was like, well, I live in LA and I'm not moving to New York, so no. And they said, we'll fly you back and forth every week. We'll pay for the tickets every week.
The biggest open door.
They just kept upping the ante. Like everything I tried to say no to, they had a solution.
Moment Donald Trump's name started boosting ratings, all those promises disappeared. Overnight, the show turned into non-stop political warfare. Pop culture, out the window, and guess who had to sit in the middle of it all? That's right, Candace. If you've ever watched The View, you already know the setup. Supposedly, it's 5 women with 5 different perspectives. But in reality, it's usually for liberals against one conservative who has to fight to get a word in. And even when the conservative manages to speak, they're shouted over, interrupted, or drowned out by the audience cheering for the other side. Balanced debate. Please. It's about as balanced as a seesaw, with a sumo wrestler on one end and a toddler on the other.
If I'm not wrong, because I don't know too much about The View, but I've seen definitely like some controversial clips online or on YouTube. Yeah. That's a primarily liberal audience.
Oh yeah, it is. That whole show started and it's called The View because it's supposed to be 5 different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much one viewpoint.
That's what I picked up.
Yeah, there's usually like one token conservative. So I was that conservative for 2 years on this show.
But going into it, you knew that you were going to be that kind of token target.
Yeah.
This said she would spend hours every night preparing, sometimes up to 4 hours just to be ready for as many as 80 possible topics. Yes, 80 every single day. Imagine cramming for a test when you don't even know what the questions are going to be. That was her life for 2 years. And it wasn't just exhausting, it was emotionally draining.
For each and every episode.
Girl, I have never prepared like I have prepared for that show in my life, okay? You basically get a packet of about 80 topics the night before because they're all current events. They keep moving and changing whatever happens in the news cycle. So I would spend probably a minimum of 4 hours each night researching all 80 topics so I could understand what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then on the morning of, with the hosts and the producers, they break it down. We go through all 80 topics and then pinpoint maybe 7 or 8 of those that we're actually going to discuss on this show.
Admitted the stress was unlike anything she'd ever faced. And here's the kicker. Sometimes she couldn't even share her real opinions. Why? Because the producers had already decided what they wanted her to say. So much for The View. It was more like the script.
There was only one type of stress that I've ever felt in my life that came from that show. It was so difficult. And to manage that emotional stress was very, very hard. Felt like I was going into a show that I didn't have a clear opinion about or nervous to talk about.
This isn't just Candace's story. Look at Alyssa Farah Griffin, the current conservative on the show. Have you noticed how she rarely pushes back? It's not because she has nothing to say. It's because the system is designed that way. When every opinion is judged before it's even spoken, when the audience boos anything even slightly right of center, and when the co-hosts gang up on you, what chance do you really have to be yourself? And then, of course, there's Whoopi Goldberg. If chaos is happening on that stage, chances are she's right in the middle of it. She has no problem twisting herself into knots to defend Hunter Biden. Yet the second Donald Trump's name comes up, she practically explodes. The show isn't about facts, it's about drama. And honestly, that explains everything. The producers don't care about real discussion. They want viral clips, fireworks, and headlines. Think about it. What grabs more attention? A calm talk about the economy, or Whoopi Goldberg shouting at someone about Trump for the 10th time that week? Ratings drive everything. And once Trump became their golden goose, every topic eventually circled back to him. Didn't matter if they were supposed to be discussing cooking or celebrity divorces, Trump's name came up and chaos followed. But the worst part, the audience. According to Candace, no matter how thoughtful or reasonable she tried to be, the crowd would sigh, groan, or roll their eyes. That wasn't random. The audience was carefully picked to react that way. Basically, they acted like a live jury, ready to boo anything conservative and cheer anything liberal. Imagine walking into that every single day. It's not debate, it's an ambush. Next
thing that really pisses me off about this is, if y'all really cared about children, where are the tax credits? Where's the paid family leave? Where's the free health care?
Yep, she's demanding tax credits, but now that the Trump administration is coming through with some relief, she ain't happy.
So as birth rates continue to decline in America, the White House is looking into offering $5,000 cash bonuses, expanded access to IVF, along with other incentives for women to have more babies.
Why?
And, I am incredibly insulted by this because clearly they don't know how women's bodies work.
Oh, she's so insufferable, isn't she?
Now, let me ask you this. If a show claims to promote diverse viewpoints, but rigs the system against anyone who disagrees, is that really diversity? Or is it just propaganda with commercial breaks? I think you already know the answer. And this isn't just about Candace Cameron Bure. This is a pattern. Every conservative who's ever sat at that table either burns out, gets silenced, or eventually quits. Why? Because the job isn't about sharing your perspective, it's about surviving. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin often team up like it's a 3-on-1 cage match. No matter how strong your arguments are, they'll cut you off, mock you, and drown you out until the audience forgets what you were even saying. That's not dialogue, that's theater. Candace admitted her natural instinct is to avoid conflict. She prefers calm, respectful conversations. But calm doesn't sell. The producers want shouting chaos and viral moments they can post online with headlines like, "Whoopi destroys conservative co-host." That's the business model, and it works. Just not for the poor conservative in the hot seat.
So it was really challenging, but I did as much prep work as I could. I felt like I was in college or in high school or whatever every night. And then I had a couple really incredible, really faithful friends that were with me by phone every morning. So when I knew the decided on topics, and politics is not my strong suit, or at least it wasn't then. I know a whole lot more about politics now, but I was really learning politics while I was doing that show because we just weren't a family that ever talked about politics at home. So I had a couple of very faithful friends in my life that committed to that 1 hour in the morning of my prep time, because that's about...
Let's not ignore the hypocrisy. When Hunter Biden was facing scandals, Whoopi and the rest bent over backwards to downplay it. But the second Trump's name came up, it was DEFCON 1. Calls for investigations, arrests, you name it. The double standard is obvious. Millions of viewers watch this show daily without realizing they're being fed a carefully crafted narrative. That's the real danger. The View isn't just a talk show, it's a cultural megaphone. And when that megaphone only promotes one side while silencing the other, the audience walks away thinking they've seen a fair debate, when in reality, they've just been served political theater disguised as conversation.
You have different reactions when you're put under pressure. So they talk about fight or flight. Like, do you fight? Are you ready to go for it? Or do you want to take off? Like, you want to hide and you want to run? And I would say I am a flight person.
Really?
I don't love conflict. I'm not afraid of it. I like resolution. So I'm always happy to have the discussion because I like directness and I like resolution. But I'm not like, my gut reaction is not to fight with people. I want to take a hike. So with that, I think my disposition helped me in that when people really come at me, I don't get super riled up. Like, I don't put on the boxing.
Here's the bottom line. The View isn't really about sharing different opinions. It's about controlling the narrative. Conservatives aren't there to contribute, they're there to be tokenized, silenced, or humiliated. The producers script the talking points, the audience is stacked against them, and the co-hosts gang up like a tag team. What you end up with is not debate, but a partisan echo chamber. Candace made an important point. She's not naturally a fighter. She values honesty, resolution, and directness, and that's the difference. Real conversation should be about understanding, not about tearing each other down. But as long as conflict and drama are the business model, conservatives on that show will never truly be heard. So, what do you think? Is The View even salvageable? Or is it too far gone? Would you watch a version of the show where all sides were actually treated fairly? Let me know in the comments. For now, that's where we'll wrap it up. If you liked this breakdown, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the truth about The View. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I don't miss The View at all. I love being on talk shows. I love hosting talk shows, but that was a hard job every single day in, day out, talking politics.
Yeah, and Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and my faith, that was the easiest part for me, to be able to talk about my faith and share my faith. But I'm happy right now not to be on that show and talk about lighter topics.